It was a calm, ordinary night in the quiet suburb of Ohio. The streets were lined with identical houses, each window glowing softly as families settled in for the evening. Inside the Harper home, 12-year-old Emily Harper was brushing her teeth, humming a tune she had made up herself. Her parents moved around the house, finishing up chores and chatting quietly, completely unaware that this night would change their lives forever. Emily's room was cozy, decorated with posters of pop stars, shelves stacked with books, and a small collection of dolls she had treasured since childhood. As bedtime approached, Emily's mother tucked her in, pulling the covers snug around her shoulders. Her father kissed her forehead, whispering, "Sweet dreams, pumpkin." Emily smiled and nodded, yawning slightly. There was nothing unusual that evening, no argument, no strange phone call, nothing that would hint at the darkness lurking ahead. Yet, as the house grew silent and the clock ticked toward midnight, something in the air felt off. It was subtle, a barely perceptible chill, like the kind you feel just before a storm breaks. Around 2 a.m., the quiet of the night was broken by a soft creaking sound. Perhaps it was the old floorboards settling, or maybe the wind brushing against the window. But in Emily's room, the sound seemed different. It came from the corner near her closet, slow and deliberate. If anyone had been awake, they might have thought it was just the house breathing. But the Harper home had always been ordinary, predictable, safe, and this sound was neither. It was a small, almost insignificant noise, but it marked the beginning of a nightmare that would haunt the family for decades. The next morning, Emily's parents woke up to find their daughter missing. At first, they thought she might have wandered into the living room or gone outside, as she sometimes did when she couldn't sleep. But the house was eerily quiet. Her bed was untouched, the blankets still rumpled from where she had slept, and her favorite stuffed rabbit lay beside her pillow. The window by her bed was slightly open, just enough to let in the morning breeze, but there were no signs of struggle. It was as if Emily had simply evaporated into the night. Panic set in quickly. Her mother ran through the house, calling Emily's name, checking the closets, the bathroom, even the laundry room. Her father joined in, heart pounding, opening doors and peering under furniture, hoping against hope that she was hiding somewhere, playing a cruel game of peekaboo. But every corner, every shadowed nook, revealed nothing. Emily was gone. Her parents could only stare at each other in disbelief, the air heavy with fear and confusion. How could a 12-year-old vanish from her own bedroom, in the safety of her home, without leaving a single trace? As soon as Emily's disappearance was discovered, the Harpers called the police. Officers arrived quickly, but even their experienced eyes struggled to make sense of the scene. Every room was in order, nothing disturbed except for Emily's slightly open window. There were no signs of forced entry, no footprints in the yard, and no neighbors had seen or heard anything unusual during the night. It was as if Emily had vanished into thin air, leaving only questions in her wake. The initial search was thorough. Officers combed the entire neighborhood, spoke to every neighbor on the block, and brought in search dogs to track her scent. But the dogs seemed confused, unable to pick up a clear trail. Her school friends were questioned, but no one recalled any strange behavior, no notes or messages hinting at trouble. Emily's parents were interviewed multiple times, each recounting the same routine, the same bedtime rituals, the same ordinary night that had ended in an extraordinary nightmare. Local news stations picked up the story quickly. Flyers were posted across town, and Emily's face appeared on television screens everywhere. Volunteers joined the search, scouring parks, wooded areas, and nearby abandoned buildings. Every corner of the town was covered, yet nothing was found. No evidence, no clue, just a growing sense of unease that gripped the community. People whispered about the Harper house, once seen as a happy home, now shrouded in suspicion and fear. Private investigators were brought in as the days turned into weeks. They dug into Emily's life, her school records, her friendships, even her online activity, which, in 1999, was minimal but still present through early chat rooms and emails. Nothing seemed amiss. There were no signs of bullying, no threatening messages, no secret diaries detailing fear or danger. Emily was a normal, bright, and well-loved girl, and yet she had disappeared completely, leaving behind a silence that seemed louder than any scream. The longer the search continued, the more desperate her parents became. Sleepless nights turned into endless days of worry and anxiety. Every knock at the door, every ringing phone sent their hearts racing. The police kept checking in, but the case began to grow cold. Friends and neighbors, once eager to help, slowly returned to their own lives. The town tried to move on, but for the Harpers, and for the few who truly remembered that night, The mystery of Emily's disappearance remained a shadow that refused to fade. Even after the police had exhausted every lead, Emily's parents refused to give up. The emptiness of her absence felt suffocating, and the quiet of the Harper home had grown unnatural, almost oppressive. That's when strange things began to happen. Small, subtle, but impossible to ignore. Doors that had been shut tight would creak open in the middle of the night. Lights flickered without explanation. And sometimes, Emily's mother swore she could hear faint giggling, soft enough to be mistaken for the wind, but familiar enough to send shivers down her spine. Emily's room became the center of these eerie occurrences. Her father, once a skeptic of anything supernatural, admitted he felt a chill when he stepped inside. Objects would move slightly from where they had been placed, and her dolls, arranged neatly on shelves, sometimes faced different directions in the morning. Her mother reported seeing shadows flit across the walls, tiny, fleeting shapes that resembled a small child. Neighbors whispered about the house being cursed or haunted, but the Harpers knew this was different. It wasn't ghosts that scared them, it was the feeling that Emily was somehow still present, trying to communicate. Desperate for answers, the Harpers reached out to private investigators and, controversially, even mediums. Some claimed to sense Emily's presence, describing her as scared but aware, hiding from something, or someone, in the house. One medium told them she had been trapped in a shadowed corner of the house, not physically, but spiritually, as if the home itself had swallowed her essence. Each visit left the family shaken, yet strangely relieved, as if confirming that Emily was still there, in some form, somewhere they couldn't reach. But the most chilling discoveries came from Emily's belongings. Her diary, found months after she vanished, was filled with innocuous entries about school and friends, but tucked between the pages were drawings of figures lurking in the corners of her room. Some depicted a shadowy figure watching her while she slept, others showed tiny, hand-like imprints on the walls and floors. But the detail and consistency suggested something far more sinister, something Emily had feared deeply, yet had no one to confide in. As the years went by, the house grew quieter, but the sense of unease never left. Even when the family tried to move on, or when visitors entered, they reported a strange, almost tangible tension in the air. Emily's absence had left more than just an emotional void, it had left a mark on the home itself. Every creak, every shadow, every cold draft seemed to echo her disappearance, whispering a secret that refused to be revealed, until, decades later, a hidden clue would finally resurface. Years passed, and the Harper home, once filled with laughter and life, fell into a slow, eerie decay. The paint on the siding peeled in long strips, windows gathered layers of dust, and the garden, once neatly kept, grew wild with weeds and brambles. Neighbors who once waved at the Harpers now avoided the house, crossing the street or taking a longer route just to steer clear. Rumors circulated about strange lights at night or the sound of footsteps echoing through empty hallways, though no one dared investigate. The house had become a shadow of its former self, a vessel of fear rather than comfort. Inside, time seemed to freeze. Emily's room remained untouched, a small shrine to a life abruptly ended. Her bed, still neatly made, held the faded outline of where she had slept. Her dolls were covered in dust, their eyes staring blankly into the dim room. The closet door remained ajar, as it had been that fateful night, and the slight chill in the air never seemed to dissipate. Even the floorboards creaked in a rhythm that suggested someone, or something, was always moving just beyond sight. The house itself felt alive, holding on to the secrets it had swallowed. Locals began telling stories of the house in hushed tones. Children dared each other to peek through its cracked windows, but most turned back before reaching the front door. "The Harper house watches you," one teenager whispered, convinced the walls themselves were listening. Others spoke of fleeting shadows in the attic, or whispers that came through the vents, almost like a warning. The house had become an urban legend in the small town, a place where curiosity was punished by fear, and where time itself seemed warped by the tragedy that had occurred within its walls. Emily's parents had long moved away, unable to endure the constant reminders of their missing daughter. Yet, even from a distance, the house continued to haunt them. Every phone call, every passing car near the old block, seemed to echo the memory of that night. The community tried to forget, but the Harper home refused to be ignored. Its silence was oppressive, its emptiness heavy, and its presence a constant reminder that a girl had vanished, leaving nothing but unanswered questions and the lingering chill of a home that remembered everything. Eventually, the house was sold to a new family, eager to renovate and breathe life back into its decaying walls. But even they felt the weight of its history. As they toured the rooms for the first time, A strange unease settled over them. The floors creaked in ways that seemed unnatural, the shadows lingered longer than they should, and the air itself carried a coldness that didn't match the weather outside. Something had remained behind, something invisible, watching and waiting for the moment when its secrets would finally be uncovered. The new family had barely settled in when they began cleaning the attic, a dusty, cobweb-filled space that hadn't been touched in decades. Amid stacks of forgotten boxes and old furniture, the teenage daughter, Lily, noticed something unusual. Tucked away in the far corner, behind a stack of old newspapers and covered in dust, was a small wooden dollhouse. At first, it seemed like a harmless relic, a forgotten toy left behind by the previous occupants. But as she wiped away the layers of dust, she realized there was something strange about it, something almost alive. The dollhouse was unlike anything Lily had ever seen. It was an exact miniature replica of the Harper home, complete with every room, every window, and even the tiny furniture that had once filled the house. The walls were painted in the same faded colors, the carpets matched, and the placement of every chair, table, and lamp mirrored the real house perfectly. What sent shivers down Lily's spine was the uncanny detail. Inside the tiny rooms were miniature figures, standing in positions that looked eerily like snapshots of the Harper family frozen in time. Curiosity overcame fear, and Lily studied the tiny figures closely. There was a small boy reading in the living room, a woman cooking in the kitchen, a man sitting in a chair by the window, but one figure was missing. The bedroom figure, representing Emily, was gone. It was as if someone, or something, had deliberately left her out. The absence of her miniature figure made the dollhouse feel alive in a sinister way, as if it were telling a story, or even issuing a warning. Every detail seemed deliberate, every placement intentional, designed for someone to notice, or perhaps to discover too late. As Lily explored further, she noticed a small compartment under the bed in Emily's tiny room. It was cleverly hidden, almost invisible unless you were looking for it. Inside, she found a folded note, yellowed with age but unmistakably written in delicate handwriting. Her heart raced as she read the words, "They know. Don't trust the house. I'm hiding." Alongside the note was a tiny wooden key, its purpose unknown but clearly significant. The dollhouse was no longer just a relic, it was a message, a clue, a bridge between the past and a mystery that had remained unsolved for 26 years. The more Lily examined the dollhouse, the more she realized it was filled with secrets. Tiny, almost imperceptible marks scratched into the floors and walls mirrored what Emily had drawn in her diary years ago. Each corner, each piece of furniture seemed to hold a story, a memory of fear and survival. It was as though Emily had left behind a map, hidden in plain sight, for someone brave enough to uncover it. The house itself had been silent for decades, but through the dollhouse, it began to speak, revealing fragments of a haunting truth that no one had been ready to face until now. Lily couldn't tear her eyes away from the tiny dollhouse. Every little detail seemed to pulse with meaning, as if it was waiting for someone to finally notice its secrets. She examined the tiny rooms one by one, running her fingers along the miniature furniture. That's when she saw it, faint scratches along the floorboards of Emily's bedroom, almost like tiny footprints. They weren't random. They formed a path leading toward the corner of the room, where a miniature wardrobe had been placed. It was subtle, but unmistakable, a silent breadcrumb left behind for someone who knew how to look. Next, Lily noticed the tiny bed in Emily's room. Unlike the other furniture, it had a hidden compartment underneath. Her hands shook as she carefully lifted the lid, revealing something that made her gasp, a small folded note and a wooden key carved with extraordinary detail. The note, written in a child's handwriting, read, "They know. Don't trust the house. I'm hiding." The words were simple, but the weight behind them was anything but. Emily had left a message, a warning, and it had been sitting there, hidden in plain sight, for over 2 decades. As Lily continued to inspect the miniature rooms, she realized the dollhouse was not just a replica. It was a record of events, almost like a diary in 3 dimensions. Tiny marks along the kitchen counters, the living room floor, even the stairs mirrored Emily's old drawings and diary entries. Every figure, every placement, seemed intentional. The dollhouse was more than a toy. It was a map, a story frozen in wood and paint, waiting for someone to read between the lines and uncover what had really happened that fateful night in 1999. The more Lily explored, the more chilling the realization became. The dollhouse didn't just show the Harper family. It reflected Emily's fears, her secrets, and her attempt to communicate without being found. Even the empty space where her miniature figure should have been felt purposeful, like a warning of danger that had yet to be revealed. The tiny key suggested a physical lock somewhere in the real house, hidden for decades, containing answers no one had been able to uncover until now. By the time Lily stepped back, the full weight of the discovery began to sink in. She wasn't just holding an old dollhouse. She was holding a bridge to a decades-old mystery. Every scratch, every figure, every hidden compartment was a clue carefully left by a girl who had vanished, a silent cry for help waiting for the right eyes to see it. The miniature world had finally begun to speak, and what it revealed would push the Harper mystery further into the shadows, teasing secrets that had been buried for 26 long years. The note and tiny key led Lily to investigate the Real Harper house with renewed intensity. She explored every corner, every shadowed hallway, retracing the layout of the dollhouse. Her heart pounded as she noticed that one section of the attic wall seemed slightly uneven, almost like it had been patched over. Kneeling down, she pressed her hand against the plaster, and to her astonishment, it gave way, revealing a narrow crawl space behind the wall. Dust and decades of cobwebs coated everything inside, but there, in the dim light, were Emily's belongings, hidden away and perfectly preserved. Inside the crawl space were remnants of Emily's life frozen in time. A tiny bed, fashioned from blankets and boards, showed that she had somehow created a makeshift hiding spot. Scattered around it were her old drawings, her diary, and small toys she had cherished. Each item told a story of fear, courage, and survival. The realization hit Lily like a cold wave. Emily had not been taken or harmed in the way everyone had feared. She had hidden herself, perhaps from someone in the house or from a danger only she knew, using the very house as her prison and protector. The diary entries found in the crawl space revealed more than just her hiding. They were hauntingly detailed accounts of nights spent in fear, of sounds she couldn't explain, and of shadows moving in the corners of her room. Emily had drawn tiny sketches, mapping the crawl space, the rooms, and even the strange noises she heard. The miniature dollhouse mirrored these drawings perfectly, as if Emily had foreseen someone discovering it one day. Every figure, every detail in the tiny rooms was a careful record of what she endured, an encrypted map of her life in hiding. What made the discovery even more shocking was the absence of any signs of a perpetrator. There was no intruder, no attacker, no physical evidence of foul play. The house itself seemed to have swallowed the danger, or perhaps it had been Emily's ingenuity that kept her safe. The key, now understood, unlocked a tiny wooden box she had built inside the crawl space, containing even more clues, notes to herself, hidden messages, and small items meant to leave a trail for someone brave enough to uncover the truth. The realization was chilling. Emily had orchestrated her own survival and secrecy in a way that no one could have imagined. As Lily pieced everything together, the truth began to take shape, terrifying and awe-inspiring all at once. Emily's disappearance had never been random or malicious. It had been deliberate, a testament to a child's resourcefulness and fear. The hidden dollhouse had preserved the story, a silent witness to decades of mystery, waiting for someone patient enough to decode it. The shocking revelation wasn't just what had happened to Emily. It was the depth of her courage, the precision of her plan, and the eerie way a home, a toy, and a secret had intertwined for 26 long years, keeping the world guessing and the mystery alive. As the dust settled in the hidden crawl space, Lily stepped back, letting the weight of what she had uncovered sink in. Emily Harper had vanished from the world, yet left behind a silent testament to her courage, her fear, and the secrets that had haunted a house for decades. The dollhouse, the tiny key, and her hidden sanctuary had finally spoken, revealing a story no one could have imagined. But even as the truth unfolded, one question lingered in the air. Why had Emily hidden herself? And more chillingly, what, or who, had she been hiding from? The house had guarded its secrets for 26 years, and now that they were exposed, the shadows seemed to watch more closely, waiting, as if the story was not quite finished. Sometimes, in quiet rooms, you can still feel her presence, a whisper in the corners, a flicker of movement in the shadows. Emily's disappearance was no longer a mystery, but the eerie reminder remained. Some secrets refuse to stay buried, and some houses never truly forget. And so, the Harper house stands still, silent yet alive, a monument to the girl who vanished from her own bedroom, and to the tiny dollhouse that finally dared to reveal the truth.
If you liked this video, don't forget to hit that like button, share it with your friends, and drop your thoughts in the comments below. Most importantly, subscribe and hit the bell icon so the next secret finds you first.